Why does the Capitol smell like a hospital?
Tourists on the Capitol steps wrinkled their noses. The signature lavender air freshener had been replaced by something harsh. 200 miles away, a 6-acre field of lavender lay mowed flat, rows of purple stubble under a cold sky.
No, 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 no.
Richard Mathers stood in the wreckage, the state capitol dome, a tiny glint on the horizon. For 12 years, this field had supplied the Capitol's custom lavender scent, a fragrance woven into every tourism campaign and political event. Now the air handlers ran on a default chemical cartridge, and the building smelled like a cleaning closet. It would take 2 weeks for Governor Chen to raise her head and demand answers, and the trail led back to a single HOA work order, signed on a Tuesday afternoon by someone who never imagined the consequences. It all began with a phone call to an HOA. 6 hours earlier, Richard Mathers sat in a Salem committee room, unaware his life's work was about to be erased.
The state's agricultural heritage depends on crops like lavender, not just for tourism, but for the very identity of this state.
While Richard spoke, Lisa Pembroke stood at the edge of his property, clipboard in hand.
6 inches. The ordinance says 6 inches. This lavender is nearly 3 feet high.
She checked the box for overgrown vegetation and radioed the landscaping crew.
It's a fire hazard and an eyesore. Cut it all down.
The crew received the order at noon. They fired up the industrial mowers. Back in Salem, Richard checked his watch. His testimony had run long, but he felt good about the session.
If the committee approves the funding, I can expand the lavender supply, maybe even offer public tours.
He had no idea that by the time he drove home, his 12-year contract would be nothing but a signature on a work order and a field of stubble. The mowers cut through the lavender like it was construction-grade brush. Petals turned to dust under the blades. By 4 o'clock, 6 acres of purple were reduced to a brown mat, the scent of crushed foliage lingering like a cemetery. Richard's red pickup rolled onto his property just as the sun dropped behind the mountains.
20 years of soil preparation, 12 years of contract work, all of it gone in an afternoon.
He stumbled out, walking rows that no longer existed.
The distillery cannot process stalks. The state contract needs oil by the gallon.
That evening, he called the HOA number printed on the quarterly newsletter.
You've reached the Willow Creek HOA. This is Lisa Pembroke.
Lisa, it's Richard Mathers. My lavender field, someone mowed all 6 acres.
Yes. The vegetation exceeded the 6-inch lawn height ordinance. The committee greenlit the mow. It's policy, Mr. Mathers.
2 weeks later, the date of Richard's scheduled delivery passed without a single bottle of lavender oil reaching the Capitol loading dock. The HVAC system, sensing an empty reservoir, automatically switched to a generic chemical cartridge. Within days, the change was unmistakable. Tourists stopped pausing to inhale the building's signature welcome.
My inbox is full of complaints. Visitors say the Capitol smells like a hospital hallway. I am alerting the governor's office. This is a tourism emergency.
Tourism emergency? What happened to our scent? I've breathed that lavender for 12 years. This is wrong.
Governor Chen walked the marbled corridors herself and inhaled the stale chemical air.
Find out why the scent is offline. I want a report on my desk by morning.
The order set in motion a review that would trace back to a single HOA work order and a signature nobody had bothered to read. A tip reached State House reporter Rebecca Torres. The Capitol's signature lavender scent had vanished, threatening a tourism campaign worth millions. She traced the exclusive supply contract to a 60-year-old florist named Richard Mathers, whose farm sat 3 hours from the Capitol.
Mr. Mathers, I am Rebecca Torres with the State Ledger. Why has the Capitol's lavender supply stopped?
Someone mowed my entire field. Come see for yourself.
Her news van pulled up to a field of brown stubble, 6 acres that once bloomed purple. Richard handed her the HOA work order. In careful cursive, lavender, over height, mow, signed Lisa Pembroke.
You held a 12-year exclusive contract. Do you know what happens if the scent doesn't return?
I am no lawyer, but I know a wrong when I see it, and that's what happened.
Rebecca recognized a front-page story, and this one had a name attached. The governor's office would soon receive a preview of that story, and a name they'd never forget. The state ledger published the investigation at dawn. Within hours, a screenshot of the HOA work order spread across every social platform. Governor Chen held an emergency press conference on the Capitol steps, microphones bristling.
This is an attack on our state's identity. We will get to the bottom of it.
Lisa Pembroke watched from her breakfast nook, coffee stone cold as her name flashed across the chyron.
I followed the ordinance. They can't blame me for doing my job.
Within hours, the HOA board called an emergency meeting, the community hall packed with shouting residents.
Lisa, the phones are ringing non-stop. The governor's office is asking questions.
It was a fire hazard and an eyesore. The lawn code exists for a reason.
A fire hazard? It smelled like lavender, not kindling. The whole state is furious.
But Lisa refused to concede. The vote of confidence would have to wait, and the worst was yet to come. While the HOA argued, Chief of Staff Kevin Braxton received a briefing on the state's exclusive lavender contract.
This contract is ironclad. The entire scent program depends on one man's farm.
Meanwhile, Richard had retained David Stern, a contract attorney known for dissecting fine print.
Section 14, subsection C, willful interference. Richard, do you understand what this is?
The clause read, "Any intentional destruction of the crop shall obligate the responsible party to pay liquidated damages of $3.2 million.
That means the HOA owes me $3.2 million.
It means they're liable, and the state will enforce it to protect its own interests.
At the Capitol, Kevin Braxton saw the same clause and realized the HOA had triggered a financial disaster.
The governor can use this to crush them or force a legislative fix. Either way, the HOA is finished.
The contract became a nuclear option, one that Richard hadn't even known he held, and its fuse was already lit. David Stern formalized the demand letter, citing Section 14C, and sent it to the HOA's registered address with a copy to the governor's office.
$3.2 million. This will bankrupt every household. Lisa, did you know about this contract?
It's a bluff. No court will enforce liquidated damages for mowing a few overgrown plants.
Her phone rang before she finished. The caller ID read, "Office of the Governor."
Miss Pembroke, this is Kevin Braxton. The governor wants to know why you destroyed a state asset.
I was enforcing the lawn ordinance. It's my duty as chair.
Your duty just cost the state its signature scent and exposed your HOA to ruin. Explain that to your residents.
Lisa's face drained. For the first time, she had no rehearsed answer. The demand letter was now a public record, and the HOA's insurance carrier had already been notified. The reckoning had begun. Lisa retained a high-priced litigator who argued the lavender was a public nuisance, not a protected agricultural crop. Simultaneously, the governor's office asked the state attorney general to review the contract's enforceability and Lisa's liability.
The AG is looking at this. If they say that contract holds, we're all sunk.
That evening, a crowd of homeowners gathered outside Pembroke's house, signs reading, "You mowed, you owe."
They've never yelled at me before. I was just doing my job.
A moment later, something wet and purple splattered against her blazer. An overripe plum, thrown from the crowd.
This is assault. I'm calling the police.
When deputies arrived, they surveyed the scene and quietly suggested she might consider the residents' perspective. Her attorney's text came through. The AG's preliminary opinion leans toward enforceability. This is bad. Lisa slumped into a chair but refused to resign. The board vote was looming, and the whole state was watching. The Attorney General's preliminary opinion was released on a Thursday morning. The state contract was valid, and the willful interference clause was enforceable.
Lisa, the AG says the liquidated damages clause is enforceable. This goes far beyond a lawn code violation.
It's a politically motivated opinion. They're trying to make an example of me.
Then resign, Lisa. Show the state we're serious about making this right.
I will not be bullied by hysterical homeowners or a grandstanding governor.
Then the board will have no choice.
The board called an immediate vote to suspend Lisa Pembroke as outdoor standards chair, pending a full removal hearing. The motion passed 5-1. Lisa's nameplate was removed on the spot.
You'll rue this. Every one of you.
She slammed the door, but the damage was done. The HOA now faced the $3.2 million without its most stubborn defender. The next morning, a quiet delegation of HOA residents found Richard on his porch. They came to negotiate.
Mr. Mathers, if you'll lower the damages to something we can afford, we can avoid special assessments. Let's find a middle.
Lisa never offered me a middle ground. She mowed my entire livelihood and called it policy.
They offered $800,000, a fraction of the contract's value. Richard said he'd think it over, but his mind was already leaning. He called David Stern that afternoon. The lawyer's voice was flat.
If you settle for a penny less than the full amount, the contract becomes negotiable. Every future provision loses its teeth.
Grandpa's note said, "Don't let the bastards take what's yours." This is his legacy, too.
The image of his grandfather's hands, steady over a copper still, hardened his resolve.
I appreciate you coming, but I can't settle. The contract says what it says.
The HOA delegates drove away in silence. The special assessments were now guaranteed. The special assessment notices arrived in 96 mailboxes. Every household owed $33,000, due in 90 days. A handwritten note on one bill read, "We can't pay this, we'll lose our home."
The phones are melting. People are talking about class action suits against the board.
Some residents retained their own lawyers, turning the HOA into a legal battlefield.
I did nothing wrong. The governor is using me as a scapegoat for her failed tourism branding. If those lavender rows were so precious, maybe the state should have mowed them themselves.
The interview aired that night. Within hours, the station's switchboard was jammed with furious calls.
You've got to pay your share, Lisa. Out of your own pocket. Show these people you stand with them.
Lisa refused. She told them the assessment was a board problem, not hers. Her name became a meme, her coral blazer a symbol of suburban despotism. The legislature had begun to take interest. A freshman representative from both parties proposed a one-line amendment, exempt any parcel under exclusive state agricultural supply contract from HOA jurisdiction.
This amendment protects our state's heritage. I'll sign it the moment it reaches my desk.
A committee hearing was fast-tracked. Richard Mathers arrived in the same tie he'd worn to Salem, but this time the whole state was watching.
This field is the lifeblood of our state's identity. I am not asking for revenge. I am asking for permanent protection.
Lisa Pembroke demanded to testify. The committee obliged, and every camera in the room turned toward her.
I was following the rules. They turned a simple lawn violation into a media circus. I am the victim here.
Her statement rambled from lawn ordinances to personal slights. The chairperson cut her off after 3 minutes. David Stern submitted the contract into evidence. The liquidated damages clause was read aloud. Willful interference, $3.2 million. The committee recessed with no vote, but the political momentum was undeniable. The governor's office made it clear. The amendment would pass, and Richards Field would never again fall under HOA rule. The HOA board called one final special meeting. Every seat was filled, the air sharp with resentment.
Be it resolved that Lisa Pembroke be removed from all HOA offices, effective immediately.
A secretary handed Lisa a termination letter. She stared at it as if it were a foreign object.
This is a kangaroo court. You'll be begging me to come back.
She crumpled the page, threw it on the floor, and stormed out. The door echoed. A week later, a typed statement arrived in the HOA mail. "I resign from all HOA positions, effective immediately. Lisa Pembroke." The board accepted it in a 5-second vote. No debate, no eulogy. Lisa was gone, but the special assessment stood. The $3.2 million liability did not vanish with her nameplate. The legislative amendment now had a committee date. The governor's office confirmed the one-line text was already drafted. Richard sat on his porch, looking over the flattened rows, and allowed himself a single breath of hope. The amendment reached the floor on a Tuesday. The gallery was silent as the digital tally climbed. When the speaker announced the final count, 95 in favor, 3 opposed, a rare bipartisan cheer filled the chamber. The governor signed the bill the next morning, the Capitol dome visible through the window behind her.
Mr. Mathers, your land is now permanently exempt from any HOA oversight. This state will never forget what you've given us.
I just want to replant and get back to work. The scent belongs to everyone.
The one-line amendment would hang in Richard's barn for decades, a simple sentence that had taken a scandal to become law. That same week, the HOA mailed the first round of special assessment bills. The envelopes were thick with payment schedules. A return letter read, "We emptied our retirement account. We hope you are happy." It was addressed to the board, but the anger was for Lisa. Greg Thurlow sat in his home office, staring at a copy of the framed amendment that would never apply to him. The law was settled, but the soil was still bare. Richard's next battle would be fought with a shovel, not a lawyer. With the first assessment checks deposited, Richard hired a local crew to begin replanting the 6-acre field. 10,000 lavender plugs arrived on a flatbed truck. The soil was turned by hand, row by row. News vans returned to the property, but this time the cameras captured rebirth instead of ruin. The governor's office announced a state heritage grant to subsidize the restoration, calling the field a living landmark. Lisa Pembroke watched the coverage from a cheap motel room in a neighboring state. Her belongings filled a single suitcase.
They're celebrating him like a hero. I was just enforcing the rules.
The television showed Richard kneeling in fresh dirt, a plug in his hand. The caption read, "The scent of justice." She switched it off. For the first time since the scandal broke, Lisa Pembroke cried. Her coral blazer hung in the closet, unworn, a relic of a power that no longer existed. 200 miles away, the lavender would need 3 years to reach full yield. But the contract had time, and so did Richard. By the following spring, the field was purple once more, its young blooms enough to restart the state's perfume.
The first pressing filled the barn with that sharp, clean scent. It was exactly right.
Tour buses returned to the field's edge. The state's signature lavender was back on the map. The Tourism Bureau orchestrated a lavish ceremony on the Capitol steps, dubbing it the return of the scent.
After a year of sterile air, the scent is back and more potent than ever.
Joan held up the new tourism brochure, Richard's field on the cover, a lavender-scented strip for every visitor.
Richard Mathers proved that one man's integrity can perfume an entire state. This field is now a heritage site.
After the ceremony, Richard delivered a ceremonial barrel of oil to the Tourism Bureau, Joan Whitfield beaming beside him.
This field was never just mine. It belongs to everyone who stops to breathe it in.
The Capitol dome gleamed against a violet sky, lavender air cycling through every vent for the first time in a year. The Capitol Scent campaign drew record crowds. Tourism revenue jumped 18% in the first quarter alone. National magazines featured Richard's farm, calling it the most fragrant political victory in state history. The HOA wired the last payment of the $3.2 million liquidated damages, closing the account with a memo. Scent restored.
Greg Thurlow stepped to a microphone beside Richard. The board offers its sincere apology. We failed you, and we failed the state.
I never wanted the money. I wanted to be left alone to grow lavender. Today, both are done.
They shook hands, a single frame that ran on every state news site that evening.
Joan Whitfield reported that lavender-scented merchandise had become the top-selling item in every Capitol gift shop.
The Capitol Scent scandal had transformed into the strongest tourism brand the state had ever seen. Rebecca Torres won a state journalism award for the investigation that started it all. Her story now a case study in accountability. Richard returned to his field, where the rows of purple stretched toward the Capitol dome. He didn't need to look back. Lisa Pembroke's special assessment went unpaid. Within 8 weeks, a foreclosure notice was nailed to her door. She packed 3 boxes and left the coral blazer in the closet. It never made the trip. The new apartment was a studio above a laundromat, 3 hours from the HOA she once commanded. The Capitol's signature scent now outsold every perfume in her aisle. She stocked the testers without looking at the label. One afternoon, she carried a box into her building and caught a neighbor's conversation. "The lavender at the Capitol is back. We drove 2 hours just to inhale it." Lisa's fingers went numb. She climbed the stairs without a word. She left the blazer on a bus station bench one morning, its coral fabric fading in the sun. At the makeup counter, a customer held up her phone. "The Capitol's lavender filter is trending. Have you smelled it?" Lisa flinched. She bagged the lipstick without meeting the woman's eyes. She never once answered. The State Preservation Award ceremony was held on the Capitol steps. where tourists had once complained of stale air.
Richard Mathers, for your dedication to our state's heritage, I declare the 17th of August, Lavender Legacy Day.
The proclamation echoed across the crowd. Richard accepted a plaque with his calloused hands, steady as ever.
This law, this field, they stand as proof that one person's integrity can perfume an entire state.
The screen behind her displayed an image of the purple rose stretching into the distance. After the ceremony, Richard drove home in his pickup, the plaque on the passenger seat. The field was his real award. He walked between the rows as the sun set behind the Capitol dome.
They call it the scent of justice. For me, it's just the smell of home.
He bent and plucked a single sprig, the purple tight and fragrant. He raised it to his nose and closed his eyes, and under a violet sky, Richard Mathers smiled. It was enough. In the barn, the one-line amendment hung in a shaft of sunlight. A single sentence had rewritten the law. The outdoor standards office sat empty, its sign faded and crooked. No one fought for the old rules anymore. Tour buses rolled in. Families strolled through purple rows. The field had become a living landmark. On the governor's desk, a bottle of the signature scent gleamed beside the state seal, a reminder of what had almost been lost. At twilight, the Capitol dome stood sentinel over a sea of lavender. The colors bled into one another. Some fights aren't about land. They're about who gets to define what's beautiful and what's worth protecting, no matter the cost. Richard Mathers had answered that question, and the state had followed his lead. The scent of justice rose from the field, drifting on the evening wind all the way to the Capitol steps, and the world smelled a little more like hope in the lavender field. A child ran through the rows, her laughter rising with the scent. The Capitol dome stood watchful, the evening light catching every purple bloom. She reached out, brushing the flowers with her fingertips, just like Richard once had. The scent of lavender had come to mean something more than tourism. It was the smell of a man who refused to lose, who turned destruction into renewal, who taught a whole state that some things are worth every penny and every fight. Now it was the scent of justice, carried on the evening breeze. The screen began its slow fade, the purple and gold melting into one final image, a single sprig of lavender against the sunset sky. And somewhere in that field, Richard Mathers took a quiet breath, knowing it was finally, truly enough.